speaking for most of the Trump supporters. While we will support President-elect Trump in whatever he does, I think we would be enormously disappointed if he brought Mitt Romney in any position of authority.
All right, folks, welcome back. America Talks Live. I'm Steve Malzberg. Newt Gingrich echoing what so many, Mike Huckabee and Kellyanne Conway, just to name a few, and so many others who are Trump supporters. Some not as notable as those, but nonetheless saying Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney. And it's meeting number 2 today between Mitt Romney and Donald Trump, reportedly, as he interviews for, again, reportedly, the Secretary of State position. Joining us now, a man who has just written about Rudy Giuliani on Breitbart.com, Tom Tancredo, former congressman from the great state of Colorado and 2008 candidate for President of the United States, and, as I mentioned, a Breitbart columnist. Hello, sir.
Hello. How are you today?
I'm all right, but explain to me this fascination with Mitt Romney. Yesterday it was General Petraeus. I know, and we're going to talk about the terror attack in Ohio, and I know you think, I don't want to put words in your mouth, that Rudy would be the best person for our national security as Secretary of State because he understands the threat. But let's talk about this Romney thing. Is anything to be read into the fact that there's a second meeting today?
Yeah, I hope not, beyond the fact that they didn't get finished whatever they were trying to talk about the first time around. I certainly hope it doesn't portend anything else like a position in that cabinet. I and Kellyanne, and you're certainly right. People like me that don't have the same name recognition.
No. I didn't mean you, Congressman. I didn't mean you. You're up there with them. I meant just Trump supporters all over the country. You know, unnamed.
I'm just joking with you. Just joking.
Okay.
But it is true. I have far less name recognition than they do. But I certainly am concerned about it. You have to understand, I have a personal stake in this also, or at least a personal agenda with regard to Romney. When I ran for governor here in 2014, in the very last week of the campaign, something very peculiar happened. About $250,000 came in support of some radio ads that were absolutely the most horrible thing I've ever seen run against me. And believe me, I've had a lot of nasty stuff said. And these were over the top. I wanted to give drugs to children, and it was, illegal drugs. And we couldn't figure out where was this coming from. It was the last week I had no money left, to tell you the truth, and there wasn't anything I could do even if I had money because it was toward the end. Well, turns out I was ahead up until that time. Ahead of not only all of my competitors in the primary, but ahead of Hickenlooper in the polls. And as a result of that, it scared the Republican establishment so much, in particular, Chris Christie and Mitt Romney, that they combined to launder $250,000 into the race against me. Christie as the head of the Republican Governors Association, and Romney as the head of an organization. It's a campaign thing of his called Red Curve Solutions. We didn't know this until the press actually found out where the money was coming from. Romney and Christie were putting money into the primary race here in Colorado against me because of my immigration stance. So as I say, I've got a personal agenda here in a way against Romney, but it would be a horrible thing anyway.
Let me interject, because it's funny you mentioned Christie, because I didn't know you were going to do that, but I got a Christie story, and you probably are aware of it. That bum. When Andrew Cuomo was running for re-election a couple of years ago, last year, whenever it was, and the Westchester County executive was running as a Republican against Cuomo, and he had gotten elected twice in Westchester County, which is not a Republican stronghold. Bottom line is, Christie would not give him a dime. Christie would not support him. And so Christie, I mean, I don't know what the heck goes on with these people. I really don't.
It's the establishment protecting their turf. And I mean, this was $250,000 in this race. Let me tell you, that was a lot of money, especially in the last week. And what he did was to try and take his fingerprints off of it. He actually laundered it through the Republican Attorneys General Association. It was just amazing.
Wow.
And here's the head of the Republican Governors Association coming into a Republican governor primary.
Insane.
Right?
Insane.
Yeah.
By the way, it was Rob Astorino from Westchester here in New York State. Okay, so let's move on and talk about what we saw yesterday in Ohio. The headlines today is that they're investigating the attack in Ohio at Ohio State University, where this Somali immigrant, who now we have, let's put up one of his posts. Can we put up one of his posts? And okay, if you want us Muslims to stop carrying lone wolf attacks, then make peace. We will not let you sleep unless you give peace to the Muslims. And he had a lot more. After all this is out and all this is in, and he used his car and then used a butcher knife, just like ISIS tells you to do. And
right.
and reportedly he had readings of Anwar al-Awlaki. And guess what? They're investigating that there might be a terror link. It might be a terrorist attack. Are you kidding me? What are we doing in this country?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, of course. What are we doing allowing 100,000 of them to come in? What about Somalia is so incredible? I mean, other than it is a poverty-stricken basket case of a country, that does not usually allow, that's not the criteria we've established for, quote, refugee status, under which these people, including the perpetrator of the crime in Ohio, had been admitted. And by the way, coming in on that basis gives you all kinds of advantages, including into the, a special place into the college, taxpayer-funded kind of subsidies that come along with refugee status that, believe me, are quite lucrative to a lot of people who have never had anything. Well, it is. So what is the purpose? Why 100,000 Somalis into the United States? Why are we still doing it? Why did a Republican Congress for this length of time still approve these visas? And one reason, of course, you have to understand, the whole purpose of the change in our immigration policy in 1965 by Teddy Kennedy was to change the face of America.
Right.
And the idea of bringing in as many people as possible from places like Somalia and other places around the globe that you think, what's the thing there? It is to change America, to change us in the way we look. Yes, it's true. But it's also the culture. It's the culture itself that they want to change. And why? Why is it so abhorrent for any of us to want to save our culture when we tell people all the time that they should save theirs when they come into the United States?
Well,
they shouldn't be participants.
Well, you're a racist, Congressman, for thinking that way. Yet this former spokesman for Bernie Sanders, Simone Sanders, who now works for CNN, said on CNN the other day, we don't need white people running the Democrat Party. And that apparently is fine. We have Keith Ellison, who's going to be the head of the DNC most likely, who former Congressman Tom DeLay at the top of this show called a black racist. They just found reports, a paper he wrote when he was in college as Keith Hakeem, where he said blacks should have their own country made up of states in this country. So, I mean, that's okay, but you, for saying what you're saying, you're some kind of white racist.
Right, and I'm telling you right now, when I talk about our culture, our culture isn't just white. It's got nothing to do with being white. It's got everything to do with having a concern and an appreciation for the Constitution, for the Judeo-Christian heritage that this country was founded on. That's our culture. I'm not talking about color.
Right.
But because I want to keep it, because I want to defend it, there's something racist about that. Well, racist, how about this? Every year when I was in Congress, when we retained the control of the House of Representatives, we would have to write the rules for that next session. Every 2 years, write the rules for the Congress, that particular Congress. Okay, I would introduce an amendment to the rule every time saying you can't have a black caucus or any caucus. I didn't say black. I said any caucus based on race. Right. What kind of a thing is this? A black caucus to which no white can, by the way, be a participant? A Hispanic caucus? What if somebody were to say, you know what we really need in this country is a white caucus? Oh, my God. Oh, yeah. Ku Klux Klan, all the rest. But there's built-in racism into all of the things they're doing. And yet the press, of course, and the the general media anyway, wants to ignore it entirely. Thinks it's crazy for me to even question the idea of a black caucus.
Absolutely, Congressman. It is insane. It's Bob Grant, the great talk show host, used to say it's sick out there and getting sicker. And maybe the sickness will stop when the new administration and the new Congress gets sworn in. Tom Tancredo.
To God's ears.
Thank you very much, sir. Always great to talk to you.
Bye-bye.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. All right, do you remember? I thought this was so good. By the way, Media Research Center has compiled great montages and clips. We used some yesterday talking about how Castro's portrayed. How did they portray the election the day after the election? We'll let you see on Gimme 5. Don't go away.